Hey, greetings, everybody. It's Joe Driscoll back here with the Salt City Grind. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you that are unfamiliar, I run a podcast where I talk about all issues relevant to the 315, exploring politics, exploring issues, getting in the weeds. And today I'm very excited to have the Manlius Democrats on. How's it going, Manlius Democrats?
Awesome. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing good. Doing well.
So for those of you unfamiliar, in 2019, these guys flipped the town board, turned it all blue through a lot of grassroots organizing and messaging, and really just a lot of great, political work. So let's do a little round robin, little intro, and maybe tell us why you got involved. So we'll start with John. Go ahead.
Yeah, so hi, my name is John Deere, one of the Manlius Town Councilors. In a past life, I was a database developer. I became a political operative in 2017. Got involved with local politics with the Democratic Committee here in Manlius. That's been a huge project for me and for my wife, Berna. And then, last year we made a plan to run 3 strong candidates, ending up with 4 strong candidates. And, that was, I will say, one of the crowning achievements of my time in politics so far, and looking forward to everything that's coming next.
Yeah, it's been exciting to watch for sure. I know a lot of people are really watching with excitement, and you guys get referenced a lot. So we'll go to Caitlin next.
Hi, Joe. How's it going? It's so nice to see your smiling face. So I was asked to run by John Deere. I can't even remember how long ago anymore, 18 months ago. And I very politely said, no, thank you, that I was very busy and that I couldn't make the time. And that resulted in John running for office himself as the 3rd candidate in an amazing trio of candidates that included Elaine and Heather. And I took a back seat. It just wasn't something I was ready for at the time. But a few months later, and over those months, I was attending all these Town of Manlius Democratic events. And every time I saw them speak, I just kept thinking, I want to be up there. I wish I was up there. I should have said yes. And it was just a decision I'd made, and I was stuck with it. And I was going to support this amazing team. But then over the summer, due to events, happening outside of our control, a 4th seat opened up. And when you receive a call from the Democratic Party chair at 8:45 on a Saturday morning, she's calling you to ask you to do something. So I listened to that. I sent her to voicemail. I'm sorry, Nancy. I sent you to voicemail. And I listened to that voicemail, and I called her back a few hours later, thought about it for a few days, and realized that this was something I'd been gearing up for my entire adult life, and that local politics is a means to an end, that I'm very passionate about urban revitalization, renewable energy, and just community development, making our community a better place all around. So I was thrilled to join the slate of such a great team, and it was a moment of a lifetime to cross the finish line with all of them. Will be one of the highlights of my life. So yeah, that's and I am a Manlius Town Councilor officially.
Excellent. I love it. Elaine, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Elaine Detton. I am a mom of 3 and a graphic designer. And I definitely got into politics right after the election of 2016. And I've lived in town of Manlius for over 10 years. And I remember seeing the elections, and there would be uncontested elections. Like there was no choice. And so I knew after in 2017 that I thought that I would probably run for office. And so I did make that decision in 2019, and yeah, now I'm Manlius Town Councilor.
Love it. That's great. Heather, you want to go next?
Sure. As is often the case, Elaine doesn't give herself credit for the ways she's, sort of integral to a lot of organizations around town. And when you look at the graphic design of some of our favorite candidates and some of our favorite organizations, some of our favorite movements, Elaine is behind the design, and she's an amazing visual communicator. So just you've heard some of the intros from folks, and you can really see that people bring complementary backgrounds and skills and energies. And that was made me so excited to join. So my name is Heather Waters. I am a town councilor too. And I started serving also right at the beginning of 2020. So ran in 2019. And I grew up here in the town of Manlius, moved away after for college, came back 18 years later to the city of Syracuse. And Jonah Minkoff-Cern was saying, you care about all these issues, you're involved. I was following what he was doing. And he said, how are you going to be involved here? You should do X, you should do Y, you should do Z. And I thought about serving at some point in time, but I always thought of myself in the NGO capacity and as a person, like the lieutenant to a person who would stand up and be the leader. And so I, of course, so I got involved with the League of Women Voters, went to one of my first naturalization ceremonies, and was so moved by that and felt more patriotic than ever. After living in England for 3 years before I came back to the States, right before I moved to Syracuse, I also realized things. Wow, I have not been to all these national parks. Wow, I have not dug into the deep divide, the political divide that I've experienced over the years, even in my own family. And I went to grad school for negotiation and conflict resolution, so thought of myself as somebody who could be a bridge builder. So all of these skills and experiences were starting to come together and kind of, it's always the timing, right? So I joined the Democratic Committee in Manlius, and because so much groundwork had been done by other folks in the last few cycles and the Manlius Dems over the year, always having a commitment to keep the train running, I think we were in a really excellent position. So when I went with my head held low and told John and Nancy that I couldn't get this one person I wanted to get to run, they said, well, that's all right. You should run. And it's always that moment. And it's flattering in the moment because you think, wow, you would want me to represent you. And I think that's what the moment is there. Like, oh, you'd want me, you'd vote for me. And I'm a fundraiser in my day job. So yeah, we can talk about this, but I wasn't daunted by some of the things that a lot of other people are. But and when it comes to the fundraising part, although there were hills to climb there and weird things to get over in your head, you're asking people for money for you to do the job. And that was a new experience.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that. I definitely have no problem going out and doing stuff for causes or doing stuff for other people. When you do it for yourself, it's a whole different mountain to climb, and it feels a lot weirder. Definitely. Well, so those are the four candidates: John, Caitlin, Elaine, and Heather. But Sarah, you were already in place. Why don't you tell us about your experience and your work in Manlius?
Sarah was the OG. She was the OG of the town of Manlius.
So
yeah,
I got involved with the Democratic Committee years ago. So I was there, and what Elaine said, we noticed that the Republicans were running unopposed. We said, we have to run. We can't get anybody else to do it, so we will. So a bunch of us on the committee just all ran. We picked positions and we just ran for everything. And that was the plan was to say we can't just walk away and let them have it. We need to at least say that there is a choice and to represent the fact that there's many Democrats who live in Manlius who would like to vote for a Democrat. And so I think we made a decent campaign with no time and no money because we didn't even, that was the thing is the schedule that you're supposed to, we didn't even decide until June to run that fall. So I got the working families endorsement the week after they closed their option to do that because it was so late in the year. But we did it anyway. And I think these guys will tell you door to door is where it's at. So we just made people aware of our existence and people voted for us. So it worked out pretty well. And I was pleased to squeak by my team members. Many of them were behind me by only 10 or 15 votes, but I was the one that got across the line. So I had 2 years to represent our team by myself for a little while.
Nice. So that's Sarah, and then Prerna.
Hi, everyone. My name's Prerna Deer. So my day job, I am a registered nurse. And outside of that, I got involved in the committee. It was after the 2016 election. And I was helping out on that campaign in 2017 that Sarah got elected on, which was great. And that was my introduction to local politics. And that was fantastic. From there, I tried to take on various leadership roles within the committee. And I ended up being the campaign manager in 2019 for the 4 town board candidates. And it was awesome. I was campaign manager, I was treasurer. I wore a lot of different hats. And it was definitely a great collaboration for all of us. And we were able to put together a platform, fundraise beyond where our goals were. We really sat down early and really tried to map out what the year would look like. And even though there were, bumps along the road and, some were good, some were bad, and we just went with that. And we really, really were flexible and adapted to everything. And as for right now, currently I am the chair of the Town of Manlius Democratic Committee, and we're really focused on what elections are going to look like for the next year. So I'm really excited to see how far we've gotten since 2017, how we progressed in 2019 by flipping the town board, and where we're going to go from now.
Awesome. Great stuff. So to that point, my first question would be more directed towards John and Prerna. A lot of the reason I wanted to do this podcast is because of that conversation that people have been having about, Manlius, where people, traditionally thought there's, the Republicans went unchallenged for so long. Is it even worth the fight? And so throughout Onondaga County, we have other areas where Dems have an enrollment advantage, but we don't really have much of a committee in those areas, or at least a vital committee, or people running or people challenging town boards. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the strategy, the grassroots, and how we replicate this in other areas,
Yeah, so first, right off the bat, I don't think any of us would be in the position we're in if it weren't for the amazing efforts of Nancy Durkin, our previous chair. She worked diligently for a long time in a thankless position. And when, after the 2016 election, when people started to want to get more involved, she was right there ready to pick up the reins and run an amazing committee and build out a very smart and talented committee. And so, building off of the 2017 campaign, we knew from the beginning, I used a lot of my experience from working on Dana Balter's campaign in 2018 to plan for our 2019 run. I was talking to Nancy when I was the vice chair of the committee to, get ready for these elections and find those candidates as early as possible. And we had also changed to petitioning rather than a caucus, which means it moves the calendar up significantly. And so, as it's been alluded to, I worked with Nancy to identify candidates that we wanted to run. Heather and Elaine were, I don't remember who was brought on first, but we had great, very in-depth meetings. We talked about what it's like to run, the requirements, and the fact that it's a part-time job, for a year, and then it's a full-time job for 2 months. And then if you win, it's a whole nother job that you got to do.
Right.
Sarah's experience was incredibly helpful for that. And as Caitlin said, I met with her and tried to convince her to run. She said no. And I had been thinking about running, so that's why I decided to step up. But from the beginning, we met in January at Heather's house with Mark Matt, who ran for county legislator, District 10. Yep. And I had put together a schedule, a budget, a mail plan. I had put together a field program. And the most important thing that we did was kind of discuss it all. And it was always a safe conversation. We were very open. I told everybody that, listen, I think I know what I'm doing, but I can't prove that to you. But I think this is the right direction. We had really good conversations and feedback. We tried to run a very professional campaign. We all kind of agreed from the beginning to run a really positive campaign. We had the statistics. Dana won Manlius in 2018. John Mannion won Manlius in 2018. We knew that Manlius was ready for Democrats, and it was really just a matter of figuring out how to turn them out in an off year. And I will admit, it wasn't easy, but the team that you see is tenacious. We made it very clear. We got to knock on doors. We got to talk to people in the community. And that was our whole plan. We put together a platform that was easy to understand, and it was not, it wasn't, ideological. It wasn't, these massive sweeping things we wanted to do. We ran on transparency. We ran on governing in a sustainable manner, and we ran on the notion of putting together a comprehensive land use plan. I mean, these are all real things that you can explain at the door in 30 seconds. And being able to connect with people like that is huge. And, we knew we were going to be outspent. We ended up, I think, in the town of Manlius being outspent almost, 3 or 4 to 1. And that's, we attribute a lot of that success to just the drive of everyone that was running. And also, too, we had an amazing committee that showed up, knocked on doors, made phone calls that were working for us. And again, that's why I really do think without Nancy Durkin building that strong committee, we would not be here. So that's kind of how to replicate this. It starts at the committee level. It starts at finding the people that want to know more. And quite honestly, finding people that are willing to lose. I think you learn a lot more from an election that you lose than one that you win. It's very easy to look at things and say, I'm fairly certain this didn't work. But then when you win, there's 100 reasons why you won. But when you lost, it's a lot easier to identify the major things that cost you. And then, we worked with Mark Matt's campaign on messaging on the platform. We worked together to send out mailers to save money later on. We made sure that if we were putting on an event, we invited Mark to speak. If Mark was putting on an event, he invited us to speak. And that's kind of the theme of it too, is in Manlius, we work together. We work together and, we all agree, we disagree on a lot of stuff, but we agree on so much more. And so it's just easier to come together and talk about, getting our message out. And that's, at the end of the day, that's really what did it for us. We dabbled with mail, we dabbled with digital advertising, but we won at the doors. We're looking forward to next year, trying to figure out how to do doors under COVID. But again, we won at the doors, and it was through every conversation. I'm sure everyone has a story of, someone said, oh, I'm a Republican. And can I get 30 seconds and tell you why I want to represent you? And people appreciate that. And, there's no better place to run than at the local level, because at any point in time, you can point to wherever the town hall is and go, that's your building. Don't you want to have a say in how long we keep the lights on, and everything else we're doing there, what flowers we're planting, whether or not we're using pesticides? These are all real things that, we were able to connect with people on a real level. And again, I think everyone here would admit, almost every door, there's no Democrats in Manlius. Well, let me tell you that I just knocked on those 3 doors. I'm going to knock on those 5 doors. And, that was really the thing. And I think at some point during the campaign, we were hitting a critical mass of getting into each neighborhood and making it so that when we weren't there, people were talking about the campaign, and it was really nice to hear that, throughout August and September and October, we were finding out that people were having conversations about the conversations we'd had with folks, just with their neighbors, unprompted, not before lawn signs went out, and that was meaningful. And that meant that we had done enough communicating with the base, and we also very heavily targeted unaffiliated voters. In my opinion, they're the best people to talk to, because you have to win them over and you have to give them a reason to vote for you. You can't be like, well, I'm a Democrat, you're a Democrat, you should probably vote for me. It's so much better to have that conversation with somebody and go, you don't have an affiliation. I have no idea what your opinions are. What do you want to see? And let me tell you how I plan to deliver that for you. Yeah, so that was kind of the strategy of the campaign. That was the overall theme of it. So basically, I started out kind of running the campaign. I was also working on Tony Malavenda's county executive race. And especially once we picked up Caitlin, there was no way I was going to be able to handle it. And literally, we were driving out to Crash Falls one day, and I looked over at Prerna in the car, and I was like, hey, you think you could be campaign manager for a little bit? And she's like,
on board. We got to hand this off.
And, and we worked together to figure out something that worked. And, one of the real takeaways too, is we talked, the 5 of us talked every day. We were in constant communication.
That's great.
If there were issues that popped up, we had very uncomfortable and dragged out conversations to get through those issues. And that is a major reason why we were successful, is because we ran as a team, we agreed on a lot of stuff, and we worked together. But Brandon, if you want to talk about more of the nitty gritty stuff towards the end of the campaign, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, sure. So like John was saying, we had a conversation, a very frank conversation, and decided that, maybe some of the time management issues we were having might be better alleviated if I became campaign manager and kind of did the day-to-day stuff and the communication between all the different candidates. So I think I came on, I was always kind of like around and helping with stuff, but I think I started like maybe early summer, late spring, something like that. And so I came on, and one of the first things we worked on was the platform. And I remember everybody doing research and compiling. I remember Heather had this big Google document, and we were all working on it together. And then I remember pouring myself over it and reading it and researching things that I've never heard about ever, which was really interesting to me because at that point I was like, I don't know any of this stuff. So it's really fresh and new ideas. And I was really excited about how those different things could fit into a potential platform that voters would want to vote for, whether you're a Republican, unaffiliated, Democrat, whatever. And we sat down, I think it was like one of the libraries in town, and we sat around a big table, and we picked apart all the different parts that we thought would be a good platform. And I think that was a huge key to our success, is coming up with something that was not only, achievable, but also something that was, easy to talk to people at the doors about. I think that was absolutely essential. We had it on every mailer. We put it on social media. And we also had an overall plan. We wanted to appeal to young families. There's a lot of people in the town that maybe just didn't feel represented completely or didn't feel completely heard. And so I know from John and myself, we had moved to Fayetteville, Manlius in the area in like 2014, I want to say. And we loved it here. We were looking for a home, and crazy enough, we decided to get our first home ever, moving from like a townhouse apartment to our first home during the campaign, a couple months before the election. Don't know what I was thinking. But we did that. And, we just, a big part of it for us was we want to set roots down. We want to have, we all have families here. Or we want to have families here. And we wanted to just let voters know that that's what we cared about, the future, the next 30 years, the next 40 years, whatever it is. So I think the platform was a huge piece. And then Caitlin came on, and it made the team even stronger. We had more to talk about in terms of like sustainability. From there, it was fantastic. We did, we raised more than we expected. And we got to do extra mailers because of that. We got to pour more money into digital ads. And I thought that was really important too, to just let people know, like, there are Democrats, there are people supporting us. We're here, and, we're strong, and we're trying to get the word out about us. So, yeah.
Love it. I love hearing about it. And it's great to hear you guys talk about, for me, it's like there's a disconnect. Like, politics is something foreign. It's just this word with no real context. And then it's like, I remember when Pam Hunter took the county chair role, she gave this kind of speech that was like, do you care about housing? Do you care about, the environment? Do you care about equity? Do you care about, gender equality? Do you care about racial equality and all this stuff? And this all happens at your local politics. But I feel like so often now we just think of it as like, politics has become a dirty word, and politician is a dirty word. And no one really thinks about what the actual job entails or what politics is. So it's great to hear you guys talk about your platform and connecting with people and how you did it. So for the other four ladies there, I guess I would wonder, like, tell us a little bit about, for me, I'm really like, I love this because so often people are like, oh, Joe Joseph's that really political guy. And it's like, just 5 years ago, I was not engaged at all. You know what I mean? And I was a traveling musician and rambling around and stuff. And then it's like, you kind of just hop in the fray. So tell us about a little bit for the other folks on a little bit about what motivated you to run and some experience from it that's kind of really resonated with you, and particularly in thinking about, folks who are on the fence and thinking about doing what you guys did and stepping up in their local communities and getting involved. What's this been like, and kind of, some words from further down the trail. So, Caitlin, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, you can throw me on the spot. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, roll with it, baby.
So for me, I think Heather actually made a great point earlier that it's this thought of like, you want me to run? You would vote for me? I'm someone worth voting for. And I think even when you're looking at national elected officials like Barack Obama or, Joe Biden, and we've got these people running for president and Kamala Harris and all these amazing figures that we're seeing, like the upper echelons of the Democratic Party or any party at any point, but the people we're seeing, they're still just human beings that woke up and put on their socks and put on their pants and put on their top hats and did whatever else they did the same way the rest of us did. Not that I wear a top hat. I sometimes wear top hats, but I think that if I could compel anyone to make the decision to consider running, is that if I can do it, if any one of the faces that you're seeing here can do it, then you can do it. There's nothing that sets me apart from anyone else. And I think that what I've learned from my colleagues in serving on the board and in running last year is that it's oftentimes when you're outgoing or charismatic, when you're a good public speaker, a lot of these skills lend itself really well to running for office. But one of my colleagues on the board, Elaine, she doesn't consider herself someone that loves to get up in front of a crowd. But she's brilliant, right? She's so smart. She brings so much to the board. And I'm a better board member because of her, because she does so much research that it's just not my skill set. I'm not someone that's going to dive all the way in and get all the way into the weeds. So it takes all kinds of people. And so it doesn't matter what your skill set is. If you're waking up every day and you're leaving your house and you're thinking, this is my vision, like I'm driving up the street, why hasn't that building been rehabilitated? I'm watching the news, why does no one have health care? I'm going to my job where there's no diversity at all. There's no people of color working here at my job. If you are caring about those things, then it's not the special upper echelon of people that run for office. It's just the people that manage to convince themselves that, like John said, I'm willing to lose. I'm willing to just put myself out there and I'm willing to lose this race. And I think that what the town of Manlius did before I ever came around was why I won. There was years of work that came before I ever showed up. And I think that what we saw last year were these other communities in central New York that did not fare as well as Manlius did. They're just one cycle behind. Manlius was ahead of the curve. The work had been done. Nancy Durkin and John and Prerna and just all these fabulous people. You couldn't even name them all. The committee is really a tight-knit group. Had done this work and had run campaigns, John, one of them, that ran and didn't win. And so we saw that last year, but it's just putting your name in, putting your hat in the ring, the top hat that I mentioned earlier. See, we've come full circle. that you're building an infrastructure just by doing that. And so I think that what we'll see the next cycle is a bunch of just really great people that tried once and built something, and that now we can build on top of that. And so I just would encourage anyone with no matter what your personality, if you feel the fear, then that means you're supposed to do it, because that means you want to do it and you're afraid to do it. And I would encourage just anyone, and if you want to be a part of this, that there's nothing that sets me or anyone else apart. It's just that willingness to make yourself vulnerable.
So throw your top hat or your Kangol or whatever you're sporting, throw it right in the ring.
Yes.
It comes direct. So great words there. Elaine, do you want to, as we just, Caitlin set that one up, as you're the one who doesn't love the public speaking, but if you want to do some public speaking with us and tell us a few things about, what the experience has been like, your thoughts so far, and thoughts for other people who are considering it.
Sure. But Caitlin's right. I'm very much an introvert, like very, very much. And one reason I ran is because I think, again, regular people should run. And one reason why we're so successful is because we ran as a team and we are all different people, and we really try to focus on our strengths as much as we could, which really helps like me because I can do the research. I can kind of look at the information, and I can present it in a really easy way to get that information out there. And then we all kind of win because everyone's doing what they do best. And it's definitely a team effort. And yeah, and I always like to mention that when I was running, I had my speech. I had paper everywhere I went, and people would come up to me and tell me I did a good job, or they like no one minded that I had a piece of paper and I was prepared. Like people like that. So if you're thinking about it and you're nervous, that's totally fine. I'm shaking still. So, but absolutely run.
I love it. I love it. And someone just commented, my friend Ann Messenger, who ran for Congress, was saying, the one thing that really resonates with everyone who's watching from the outside is Manlius was that it was a team effort, really, like you're saying, Elaine, and how you guys really created that synergy, which I think is motivated each of you individually because you were all on that path together, and it really showed from the outside for people watching that weren't in the middle of it. But yeah, Heather, do you want to say a few words? Your thoughts about why you ran, what your thoughts are about local politics?
Sure. Well, first, we all wanted to prod Elaine to share her brilliance on this. We had a couple of winning moments and things that just sort of really ended up helping people to respond to us. And one of them was something that Elaine devised. We talked about the inequality of representation based on party affiliation before we ran. So if you looked at the town, it was one way. So I'll let Elaine describe how she put it together. But all we had to do sometimes was just hold our palm card out to people and they would react, and then we had an in just because of something visual.
And I think this has come up a couple of times. It was so often just saying, like, a lot of Democrats just didn't vote because they didn't think their vote mattered. 90% of our job was just saying, no, you're in the majority. If you vote and we get the other people to vote, that's a winning ticket right off the bat. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, well, look at this handy chart I have, which I actually could go get. It's in my mudroom. I was just cleaning and I found it. I'm gonna go get it.
Oh, good. Elaine's digging it out too. Good.
We have the finalized one, but I have like the original, and I literally
there it is
to me.
Did you know?
That was the original.
Give us a close up of the visual there, Elaine. What is that?
So yeah, everyone didn't. I remember in 2017, I was knocking on doors, and that was the first thing everyone would say. Oh, am I the only Democrat on the street? And so, no one knew that. No, you have there. This is the registration, and then this was our government. So people really responded to the chart to see.
Excellent.
To see that information.
And frankly, that gave us a little bit of, for me, I joked about, oh no, now the chart's all out of whack again, because we're serving. But really, that actually speaks to another thing people were saying to us at the door. So it's all, again, about this feedback and this dialogue that you get into, right, with your community when you run and you run hard and you're on the door at the doors. People were saying, I'm looking for fresh representation. I think just the energy we brought too, and the positivity and the group feel. We were like this little engine that was running through neighborhoods and speaking consistently with the same message over and over and over, and showing up to events and being a part of it and saying, we want to be a part of this. People responded to that. So I think even the folks who thought, well, I don't care which party you're part of, but if you're very energized to do this job, I think you'll do a good job. And I think about that now when I know one of the things that I'm so proud of is that this wasn't a group of people who, we self-monitor ourselves. This isn't a group of people who think like, oh, we can vote for whatever we want and we can just blah, blah, blah. The majority is a really nice place to be. It really is. It's very encouraging. It also makes you feel like you have to get as much done as you can because you have this power. but at the same time, rooting ourselves, and I think Sarah's really good at doing this for us too, rooting ourselves in not just what our dreams are for the town but checking in with our neighbors all the time to make sure that we're really grounded in the people's voice. Because we get very excited about, we could have these, I'm always talking about infrastructure wise, how with driverless cars, I really want to make sure that the zoning's updated so that when we're building curbs, they're going to be responsive to the driverless cars. I'm weirdly obsessed with it. And yet, that is not as top of mind as making sure that we're checking in with the food pantries to understand what's going on with how our people in our community are doing. So, I mean, I ran because I wanted to open the door. I hated this idea that it was this closed door society where people were in professional positions and were shown to be competent managers, and then were assumed to be the right people to represent the whole town and run the town. And that concept of running the town is done actually by these really professional staff people that we have at the town. And so, the legislators are there to make sure that the vision and the will of the people is represented. And so I liked that switch. And I think that's a really important difference that we came in with that idea. And that actually has helped us to be partners with the departments in the town. Maybe they were nervous about new people coming in, that we would be really partisan and have a lot of ideas about what shape they should be in. And so that was interesting. I ran because I wanted to open the door. I have an 8-year-old son. I was really busy with work. I was traveling, and this door opened to me saying, would you like to try to walk through? And I said, how could I do it alone? And I was told, you won't have to be alone. But there are moments where you're alone. And that was the case. I was never alone, really. But there are moments where you have to personally pick yourself off the floor and say, I have to go canvass right now. I have to make those phone calls. I have to forego doing this, this activity with my kiddo to do this, and make the choice to be an example for your child in this regard versus be there sometimes and have your, in my case, having Sterling, my husband, there, and my mom being willing. And now that one of my sisters has moved back into the area, I'm getting ready to run another race, and I just drafted her for kiddo support when COVID clamp is over. So I ran to open the door, and I want to continue to do that. I really do. And there are a lot of national organizations that are starting to see the importance of supporting the local races. So I also want our team to be the kind that keeps unlocking other doors. So we bring everybody along. There are other towns that were where we were. Great. We're all just leveling up and passing back the good information, the good supports, and to keep making progress, because we have, I think across all the towns, we have folks in government who maybe migrated, in local government in particular, migrated from other sorts of institutions like fire departments and whatever else, budget offices from places or business. And so thank you so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. This is very, very cool. But
I love it.
Caitlin and I could talk all night.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's great.
So can I expand on something Heather said for a second before we
Sure.
move on to the next topic? I think that, Heather, I think you're touching on something that's so important, and that you, myself, and Elaine all did, which was to run as mothers of young children. And Elaine has 3 kids, and I have 2 myself, and I'm a single mom. So I really relied on my parents as well. And the night I got the nomination, I was just so thrilled. And I remember I called my parents, and they said, and I think this is important to mention, they said, this is not what we wanted for you. And they were afraid for me. They were afraid for their granddaughters. And my daughters are biracial. They're Black. And, we live in Manlius, which is not the most diverse community in the state, certainly. And it brought on a lot of fear. And so it was both because of my daughters that I ran. I wanted to advocate for them, and I wanted to advocate for their community as an ally, and to be a part of of creating a world where they have every opportunity. And then I also almost didn't run because of them. And I think every mom, because Heather said, there's some stuff, and you could cry, right, talking about it. There's some stuff you just don't get to go to. There are some, there was a concert of my daughter's that I missed because I was at the Association of Towns training after we got elected. And it really, the pandemic, and in many ways, with everything being on Zoom, like they're in the other room, I can hear them chattering on, joyful noise coming from the other room. But it was knocking on doors if it wasn't for my parents and if it wasn't for my willingness to make that sacrifice. But I think that the organizations that Heather mentioned, that there's a lot of supportive organizations for women running for office, for moms running for office, and that we have a skill set, mothers have a skill set and an angle and a perspective that's really important that I would like to see supported more.
I love it. You guys should check out the last pod I did with Sally. We talked a lot about, just the her work and the kind of feeling that's, the political revolution to come when we look at other countries and the way the U.S. has been underrepresented by women and mothers especially. It's really great. I think that's another really fascinating and wonderful aspect of your guys' journey here is that, that 75% of you and actually currently 80% of you we're female candidates, and mothers.
You're so good at math, Joe. I'm very impressed.
I did that. I did that on my feet. Just, not even a college grad. It's amazing. I didn't do Common Core or anything. Just like that. But with that, we'll go to the OG, to the one who was there first. Sarah, so tell us about your experience and what it's been like with all this. I would love to hear as well what it was like, you being on the board already and then seeing this whole, this rise of the youngins here that came up.
Well, one thing I'd like to emphasize is that the value of working on other people's campaigns as a way to learn how to run your own. And I just think that our committee has been engaged with, certainly Mark Matt was absolutely terrific to work with, Mike Montez, so we had these other campaigns that were working simultaneously where we could be learning from others and engaging people who maybe didn't really care about local politics, but they cared about county politics. And you can say, well, before the county, you have the town. And, where we live, half the people don't know there is both a town and a village. So you start with some very basic civic education with that at every door. So, I don't live in Manlius. Why would I vote for you? I said, yes, you do. Sorry. But, those kinds of things, that stuff, while you're out knocking doors for someone else, you pick up some of those tips, you kind of learn some things. And in that listening process, you get to be, what are the things that people actually care about? So that in terms of designing, it's great to design a platform that's something that I might be passionate about. But what we want to do is actually find out what are the residents passionate about and see if we can build that into a platform. And so I would just say, I think that our up-ticket people have been, very generous with us. Dana Balter, John Mannion, Al Sturpey have really been helpful in working with our town committee members and us as candidates. Again, cross-eventing where you get to speak at their events and those kinds of things. So it helped us get in with the Democrats. But in order to win, you need the independents and other people who are just maybe non-voters to show up. And that's the piece where I think I would encourage people who are thinking about it, practice on somebody else's campaign if you don't feel quite ready yourself, and get in there and hear from people. And you're going to say, just because you're not, maybe if this audience is primarily, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, there's a lot of pretty normal people that are not, and you can talk to them. And they have, especially at the local level, the issues are really much more similar, and there's really not so much divide, and sort of everybody is purple, and we can get some stuff done. So I think that's a message that I would like to share. I think in terms of the campaign, I was volunteering on their campaign, that it was my year to be off. So I was working on their campaign. And I think, the other counselors who were in office at the time were running theirs. And they never imagined that all of us would win. I mean, it never crossed anybody's mind. So I think the biggest shock was that it was a sweep. I think everybody thought, oh, someone's going to win. We'll have a little adjustment. Every 3 or 4 years we have a little adjustment. No big deal. No one imagined the sweep. And so I think that just the level of shock amongst all the employees, all the electeds, everybody in both parties, frankly, everybody was just totally floored. And except maybe Perna, maybe she knew. So I think that was the biggest. There was like a 2-week period where nobody did anything because they just couldn't figure it out. And then we started work to get on board. But it was definitely a very surprising move to win so big. And I think that was really what made it newsworthy, that it was the sweep. And that really surprised everybody.
Yeah, that was totally amazing. And Sarah, you just hit so many good points. It's crazy. I was really, I love that aspect of local politics being purple, that the whole partisan divide that just turns people off from politics at a national level and recently even at the state level, and can be at times at the county level, at local levels seems to be in such a lesser grade because there's so much more we can agree on, and really taking it to, what is the people's vision of, and meeting with the neighborhoods and the communities and getting a sense of what the community wants. So, I always say I try to keep these to about an hour, and surprisingly 50 minutes just flew by very fast. We're already at the 10-minute mark. So I wanted to we talked a lot about, trying to encourage, I think, people, there's loads of towns and villages throughout Onondaga County where, if Democrats don't have an enrollment advantage, they at least have an equal footing, and loads of them where, and again, when turnouts are so low and in between years, the enrollment advantage really doesn't mean all that much if you can turn people out. If your messaging is strong and you knock doors and you talk to people and you call. But I'm curious, I also wanted to touch on the transition, which is always fascinating for me. It always used to crack me up. I've wanted to post so many snarky Facebook, what they call vague booking, vague statuses about how often what the qualities that make someone a great candidate are not necessarily what makes someone a great elected official. There's obviously a big transition going from being the candidate to being an elected official. So I'd be curious to hear, you guys talked about your platform. I don't know if we do a toss up or a round robin or whatever, but what are you guys' thoughts about what it's been like to transition from candidate to elected official and how you feel you've done with the platform? I don't know who wants to go first or how you want to parse it out.
I might nominate Elaine to go first, actually, because I am remembering, and the smirk on my face is the memory of, as we got closer to the election, we'd have these big meetings. We're talking, we're brainstorming. Everyone's knocking on doors. You got to get out, knock on doors. And then Elaine would chime in and say, what are we going to do if we win? And we're like, that's a problem for later, Elaine. That's a problem for later. We have problems right now. And she's like, but no, what are we going to do if we win? And then when we all won, she's like, I've been saying this for weeks. What are we going to do if we win? And when we won, we were all like, oh, crap, what are we going to do now? And Elaine was like, I've been saying this. So, Elaine, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Elaine, what are you guys going to do when you win? What did you do when you won?
Okay, so I have some thoughts. I just just going from campaigning to being an elected official was a whirlwind. There was just so much information just thrown at us, and to take it all in was a lot. But we had a great team at the town to help us transition. And there is training for your roles, which was great. And so just some other thoughts was when you're campaigning, it takes a lot of work and time. The same thing when you're an elected official. there is no definition. There's no job description. It's how much you can put into it. So, and then the knocking on doors again just comes right back to that, because you've been talking to your neighbors, which is really great and necessary, because then you can take all those conversations that you've had with you as a representative to guide you when you have to make those decisions. And
great. Thanks,
so
Elaine.
those are my thoughts.
So let's touch on the strokes. John, you want to say something about the strokes of the platform and how it's gone? You know, once you get, what are you going to do when you get in office? What did you do when you got in office? How did the platform go when the rubber hit the road?
Yeah, so I mean, the transition process was crazy, which I want to give a shout out to our town clerk, Allison Weber, and our town manager, Ann Oot, who did an amazing job making that happen as smoothly as they did. And so that was really the process. Is we all had plans, but what do you do when you get there, and how do you actually go down those roads? And I know one of the first things I did before I was even sworn in, I started doing research into the broadcasting platforms that we would use, because I told everybody there's no reason we can't make it so that you can watch our town board meetings at home. And also you can watch them on Saturday morning when, you're not worried about the next day of work and taking care of your kids and everything. And that was one of the biggest things. It enhanced everything else we did by bringing more people into the process. Just like we knock on doors to win over people and to activate voters, we need to make government as accessible as possible. It ended up being a huge, huge win for us with the pandemic happening. We were actually able to assist all 3 villages with making sure they were still able to hold public meetings. We use a great service called Boxcast. We bought a camera. It's plug and play. It was very cheap. We've been iterating. It's not perfect, but it's a big step forward. And, definitely, it was great to, be a month in and be able to say we have delivered on a third of what we told people we were going to do. And even from there, we've been working diligently to make sure that government is as open and transparent as possible. We've been holding extra public hearings. We've been holding them open for a long time. We've been actively engaging residents. We've been doing listening sessions and information sessions. As much as some people don't like Zoom has been a huge boon to us this year, being able to bring people together in a really tough time. We ran out sustainability, and some of the first things we did was make it easier to install solar panels and all these great things. And we've got our comprehensive plan in the work, and it just took a little time to orient ourselves, figure out how we're going to deliver. And also too, there's a lot of work in being a counselor that isn't the fun, flashy stuff. You got to read through pages and pages financial information every 2 weeks. You got to read the minutes from the last meeting and make sure that they're representative, because we got to vote on those. And then you got to read a monthly financial report. And so it was really just a matter of balancing that. And I mean, I think everyone agreed. It took 4 months before we all really realized it was just okay, so there's work that has to get done. And then we can just decide what the next project is. We have all these amazing professionals at town hall. If I have an idea, I talk to them and I say, how would we go about doing this? Or what would be the appropriate way to do this? And it's been quite a process, but I think we've all really come to enjoy it. And I think our group dynamic works really well, especially after the campaign, that, we all just support each other. So, if Caitlin's taking the lead on something, we all rally behind her, make sure she has the support she needs. I know my colleagues here have been incredibly helpful when I wanted to sell the public live streaming of stuff and, further other stuff we've been doing. But it's been, I think someone said, it's a whirlwind, but it's a learning process. And I think we have done a really good job so far in delivering on what we wanted to deliver for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Caitlin, I know sustainability was such a, is your lifeblood. Do you want to talk about the aspects, what you guys have done to, fulfill that promise of more sustainability for the town?
It was really awesome when I got the nomination, joined the slate, and I saw the list, I saw the platform, and I was like, yeah, I got this. I'm on board. Literally and figuratively. This was everything I had ever been passionate about. The comprehensive planning and the sustainability in particular. There was so much to do. And so again, kind of in thinking along those lines of, if you're thinking about running for office, think about what you know, right? Think about what you understand. You don't have to become an expert in all municipal governance on day one. There are a lot of professionals that can help you. Tim Frateschi is our town attorney. He's been awesome. And as John mentioned, Allison and Ann have been great. You have people you can ask Like there's department heads that are experts in their field. They're all day, every day. It's their full-time job. So don't feel like you have to come in and become an expert. The strength is in recognizing your relationships and building relationships with those people and leaning on them. So we were able to move very quickly on our promise of sustainability because in terms of one, doing what you know, I have a background in renewable energy. And then also the town had really not focused on sustainability very much at all. They've done a couple things here and there, which were really great, the things that they did, but there was a lot of work to be done. And so there was a lot of low hanging fruit. There was a lot of easy stuff we could get done right away as it related to our solar code and making it easier for people to put solar panels on their property. Opting into the unified solar permit, for example, was something that we did, and we opted back into the property tax exemption for solar. I knew all of those things, not only because I have a background in it, but because I have relationships with people at the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board. They're the experts. I called them. I said, what does Manlius need to be doing that we're not doing? They told me. I researched it, discussed it with them, brought it to the town, and we moved on it. Our biggest thing, and when I knocked on doors, this is what I talked to everyone about, was putting solar panels on our landfill. We have this old landfill that's right next to DeWitt's old landfill, and DeWitt's landfill is covered in beautiful solar panels, producing tons of renewable energy, providing very low-cost energy to the town of DeWitt. Why isn't Manlius doing the same thing? And we did over the course of these several months enter into an agreement with a developer to start the process of doing that. And so that was like there's low hanging fruit and then there's big projects, and that was certainly a big project. So that was there's more to do on that vein. But what I will say is that leaning on the professionals, making it your own, and that we all really relied heavily on Sarah. Like we would be like, let's ask Sarah, and we still do it. We do it all the time. Well, let's ask Sarah how this is normally done. So find the people and like Allison Weber, our town clerk, has gone above and beyond, and then even above and beyond that, way more than anyone could have ever expected of her. And she, like, find your allies, find the people that know what they're doing, that are experts in how everything is running, and that want to help you succeed. Because without them, without Sarah, without Allison, without Anne, and without Kay, that is the assistant to the supervisor, all the department heads, without all these people, we would not be successful. So
it's a great point, because I think, people said to me when I was running, I would never run. I'm so scared. Like, I don't know, I'm not an expert on 75 different, issues that you have. And it's like, yeah, neither am I. But like, you're going to have to, a lot of it is knowing who to ask, who to lean on, who to ask for help, and who has that wisdom. Great point. So Heather, how about you? How about the transition from candidate to elected official? How's it been? And what are your feelings?
Yeah, it's awesome. I'd echo everything everyone said, and I would add to it by just saying that we were lucky to get a chance. And Karen Rigney was another person who was super supportive, and Mary Kuhn as well were really, really supportive of us. And Karen gave us and made sure we knew we were invited to go to the local progress training, and that was great. Local progress, part of the Center on Popular Democracy, right? So that was cool. And I have gone back to that network many times. And for example, when we were thinking about captioning or working to get ASL interpretation at some point, I did a search and noticed that in Pittsford, they were doing that for sure. And one of the leaders was one of our local progress colleagues. So I immediately emailed her. So, just using that network. And also I loved the moment, and I just want to remind everyone, there was a moment when the incumbents that were there, that were not Sarah, they suggested that we have a former leader come on as a consultant for something. And it was like the strangest moment of like, are we going to find our power or not? Because for the beginning, it's almost like we thought, well, we have to do exactly that plan. And then we thought about it. We don't have to do that plan. That's a bad plan for all these reasons. We had real legitimate reasons, but we were willing to hear.
That was a very terrifying and then subsequently empowering moment.
That was it. It was sort of like this moment of, no, you're in charge. You have to take responsibility. That's the new part. But, and you can be fallible, but you you can go your own way. You can make your own choices, which is really, really exciting.
Awesome. Sarah, how about you? How about how's it been being the everybody, they said they all turned to you for advice on all this stuff. So what's it been like for you transitioning to an elected official and then having all these, being in for that short period of time, then having all these other elected officials looking to you for all the answers?
Well, for a little while, it was drinking from a fire hose, but it has, and then of course COVID happened, and so then there was a different fire hose to deal with all that. I would say that I think the enthusiasm and maybe the more policy oriented nature of these particular counselors has changed some of the dynamic of the work that's done. I mean, the majority of the work is still very mundane. I mean, if the town is police and highway, and that's what we do, and it's important and it's expensive, and that's what our job is. And so there's a lot of stuff that's not as glamorous. And so the fact that each of these new individuals had some pet project that they wanted to see happen, it just kind of you don't get to stop doing all the regular stuff. So you do that, and then you get this extra project that you get to do on top of it. And that's been fun, but it is more work. So anyway, I just want to say to people, when you run, if you think campaigning is a lot of work, it can be just as much work to actually win. So just keep that in mind. And I do want to make sure we give Heather a few minutes before.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
I was in Prerna. No,
talking about the unsexiness, it seems like for me as a counselor, it feels like that's like 80% of it. It's like the really unglamorous, unsexy stuff. Prerna, what are your thoughts about watching all these people going from you're the one that's hasn't transitioned, but what's your experience? How does it resonate with you watching all these cats from going into going from candidate to elected?
Yeah, so it's been an incredibly rewarding experience. It's been really surreal. I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, whoa, you guys are in the paper. I helped do that. That's cool. You guys are counselors. So like it hits me at moments throughout this past year. It's just hit me over and over again how incredibly impactful it was, the whole campaign, and that you guys are actually in there doing the work now, and things that I remember sitting around a table talking to you guys about, I really hope we can do this. This will be so cool for the town of Manlius. And the fact that stuff is coming to life is one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever seen. I thought that, my emotions about everything were sky high the election night. And I have to say, like, over and over again throughout this past year, it's really just been like, every few weeks, it's just rewarding all over again, because I just see how incredible you guys are and all the work that you're doing, and see how passionate you are about it. And it kind of gives me like those warm fuzzies all over again, just like election night. And election night was amazing. I remember I was the one who told John, hey, I think we all won. And he's like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. All four of us won. I'm like, no, you guys did win.
I openly argued with like 12 people. I was like, no, we didn't.
I
refuse to admit it. I was like, no. When Justin stamps the form, that's when I will acknowledge this.
Yeah, Caitlin, I remember that. I remember you coming up to me saying, what does this mean? Does this mean we won? And I was like, give me a second. I just need to make sure. So I basically just want to say that, just watching everything this past year unfold, and how you guys have addressed like the things you wanted to address, but on top of that, doing it while there's a pandemic, and being able to manage everything throughout that has been incredibly impressive. And I thought, we were all friends before, and we were friends during the campaign, and now I'm like, I'm really happy to be your friends. So
family now, Prerna. It's family now.
Family, I love it. See what a Democratic committee can do. Amazing things. So I'll close with this one. It kind of cracked me up. As I finished my first term, I was sitting with a veteran politician who I won't name, but was higher office and established, and was like, so what do you think? You going to do it again? And it was kind of funny because like I'm sure you guys can relate in that respect. Like as soon as you get in, it's like, I always jokingly say it's more like people are like, do you enjoy it? Do you like, and I'm like, it's more like an addiction. Like it's more like it's something that I seemingly need. I guess I like this. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I mean, there's an aspect of that though, where it's like, you're in the pub, I mean, it's not like you're Madonna or Michael Jackson or something, but like everybody's got an opinion. Everybody lets you know it. There's a lot of scrutiny. You're in the paper sometimes for good things, sometimes for not good things, or every internet, everyone shares articles on Facebook and everyone wants to tell you their opinion of what they think about you and what you've done. And it's a strange dynamic. So I guess I would close saying, is everybody running for another term next? And how enthusiastic is everybody about the gig right now? Are you a little rocky, or is everybody gung ho and ready to go for another term? And we'll go round robin. John?
I think I will definitely be running for my position again if that works out. But I think what you said is right. It's an addiction. I love knocking on doors, and I told everybody I talked to, if I get elected, before I get elected, if you call me, I will pick up and I'll do my best. And it's funny because when my phone rings and I see that it's probably a constituent, it's a little bit of like, okay, it's showtime. But then once you start having that conversation, like you said, it's addicting. It's so nice to be able to talk to people and be like, I actually can answer your question. Yeah. And it's a good answer. You're going to like it. That doesn't happen all the time, but it really is something that, public service in a way is just, it's something that feels really rewarding. And I don't think there's anything where I felt that my hard work is directly translating into good. So I'm definitely going to be hanging out for a while.
That's spot on. Caitlin, how about you?
So I think it is interesting because all of the faces that you're looking at here, for those that ran, we all have run and won at least once. We've all run and won one time, and Sarah and I will have to run again together next year because I was a special election. I was filling the last 2 years of a 2-year term. So once again, the family's all together, and we're on the advent of what it means to run a second time. And it has been difficult at several junctures. And I'm a pretty sensitive person. And while I love constructive criticism, it's my second favorite thing after people telling me how awesome I am. So I take it, but it can be difficult, like, and you're trying your best and you're new, and none of us are perfect. So when you've got people that you love, people that you respect, people that you care about calling you and saying you messed up, or people that you have no clue who they are, they're strangers on the opposite side of a mouse and a screen and a keyboard saying horrible things, those things are tough. And I wish that those things, the latter things, would go away. I think that there's no place in society for that type of behavior. But I think that what John said is true. When you can have a conversation with someone, even people you don't agree with, and say, I hear you, I see you, I feel you, and I represent you. Like, my job is not to be Caitlin Creasel, town councilor. It's supposed to be Caitlin Creasel, your representative. And so I take from you what you're passionate about, what you care about, and I represent that. And I don't care if I agree with you or not. There has been a couple issues that have come up over the summer that I disagreed with, but the resounding support from the community went the other way, and I represented that view after speaking very clearly on my thoughts. And so I think that everything I've learned in this last year, and we'll continue to learn over the next year, that I'm very excited to run again for town board and to run with Sarah and whomever the third candidate might be for the second round of to have the OG on your squad.
Right.
Cool. But you make it your own. You make it your own. Like when you run, when you're a representative, you make it your own. And I'm excited to see how that evolves.
Nice. Elaine, you?
I don't know. I'm very excited to have this first year under, and I learned so much, and I look forward to the next 3 years. So you'll have to check back in with me.
Oh, you guys, I forgot. So see, for council, we're every 2. I forgot you guys are 4.
I'm 4.
So
I
yeah,
have some time. I have some
see
time.
how those 3 years go. I think that's a totally legitimate response then, because 3 years is a long time.
I got to see
So
where I am.
make the most of that time. And Heather, how about you? I know the news, but perhaps you can tell us, do you plan on continuing in the political game?
Yeah, in the spirit of sort of keeping those doors open and swinging the door open, I am going to take a swing at District 10 for the Onondaga County Legislature. Yes. And so, building on the amazing momentum that we had from our CMAT. And I think that what's so cool is that we are, I love the work so much. I really do. I really enjoy it. I can't believe that I'm in a 3-hour-long meeting every other, Wednesday, and so energized and so interested and so thrilled to do it. And then that we want to work on it's hard to do the everyday things. And that's why, again, thank goodness for Sarah being the most amazing project manager ever. And Elaine being an amazing researcher, and Caitlin being the amazing connector, and John working on the internal coordination. And I'm often a bridge builder, but also someone who's I tend to be a big thinker, and I always have people who help ground me. So that's one of the reasons I'm interested in the ledge. I can see how what we're doing in the town intercepts with the county, and I can see how we can carry our values and the interests of the people through to the county, because let's face it, people don't understand what the ledge really does. They really may understand the executive role, but they don't understand the ledge's role. So that's one of the things that I really hope I can help people invest in their representation at that level. And if I get to serve for 2 more years after this next year on the town board instead, that will be a total win, and I will feel honored to do it. So pretty excited. Thanks again for this time today. It's been really fun.
Awesome, Heather. Thanks so much for all your thoughts and all you guys are doing. It's just great. Sarah, so Caitlin's already thrown you under the bus.
Yeah,
She says you are.
No surprise here. I love local politics, and I plan to stay in it.
Yeah. Good. Well, how about you, Pran? Are you're not elected, but you're knee deep in it. You still feeling passionate? You still going to engage in these campaigns and stay on as the committee chair and you're gung ho?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited for this next year. I'm already seeing a lot of people, a lot of passionate candidates coming out and talking about how excited they are. So as chair of the town of Manlius Democrats, I'm definitely excited to work with everyone who's interested in running and see where we go. Yeah,
Great.
I'm more excited than
Awesome.
ever.
Well,
So Jeff, I found when I had my box of fun, which is like, I can't throw any of it away, you guys. I've kept it all. Like, what am I gonna do with all this? But I found this also. I pulled it off my fridge.
oh yeah, that was so iconic. That was epic.
This is
Get it a little
iconic.
closer. Get a little closer to the camera.
Look at that.
No, the other. Yeah, there you go. That way. There they are.
I can't see it there. Can you see it?
Yep.
See, John?
It was
Epic.
definitely one of those conversations that took a little while to get through,
Yes.
whether or not we were going to use that photo, and I'm happy we ended up doing it because it really resonated with folks.
I
Oh, of
knocked on
course.
some doors that a couple days later, and this one lady was like, "How do I know you? I recognize you from somewhere." And she goes, "You were in the Beatles thing." She goes, "I throw all those things away, but I picked that up and looked at it because I was trying to figure out what the heck it was." And I was like, "Yes, that's all we wanted. That's all we wanted." But like, be visionary, be creative. Like, it's about, like, you're a candidate. It's you. Put yourself into it. And I'm excited to see what comes out next year. I can't wait to see what comes out from around the region. Do stuff like this. Do cool stuff. People will vote for you.
That's great. I love it. Well, I'll close the episode with when Mike Green joined the council, he sent me a note that said, I'll quote Leslie Knope, quoting Theodore Roosevelt, "The greatest gift that life has to offer is the opportunity to work hard at work that is worth doing." So, that's as you guys were talking, that little Parks and Rec reference came into my head. And I think that kind of summarizes the conversation that we've had is, local politics is daunting and can be quite exhausting and at times, really taxing. But at the end of the day, like John was just saying, you know, and a lot of you guys were saying as it resonates, you know, being able to help and you know, improve your community is really what it's all about at the end of the day. And that's, you know, that's work worth doing. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to everyone who
Thank you.
in and joined us. Thanks. And remember, guys, these guys are just like, you know, just like all of us. They just got together, formed a little clique, and swept the GD town board. So anyone can do it. So get motivated. And thank you so much, all the Manlius Democrats. Thank you guys for joining me today and having this fun conversation. A lot of people have been doing little heart emojis and stuff in the comments. So thank you guys. Everyone appreciates it. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. Much appreciated, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Take care, all.
Bye.
Bye.